pages of a script. The call had come from Hollywood, from the head of a construction company doing a job for one of the studios. It was an urgent call for help. I was picked up at the main gate of Tower Studios by my client, Joe Cloutman. Together, we headed for the new construction area. Joe Cloutman was a worker who'd come up the hard way and gotten a foothold on the top. And now someone he didn't know was trying to knock him off, and he was mad. When I got a look at the job he was doing, I could understand why.
A $2 million expansion program for Tower Studios. New sound stages and property storage building. Tower's doing 18 of the series you'll see on TV this year. They need the additional space badly.
Who doesn't want him to have it? TV critics or an irate public?
I wish I could appreciate your joke, Markham.
So do I.
I'm the one being sabotaged, not Tower Studios. This is the biggest job I've ever tackled, Markham. Every cent I've got is wrapped up in equipment and supplies. 18 years of building my company will go down the drain if I fail to meet my completion date. And the banks won't finance me again. They advised against bidding on this contract, said I was too small to handle it.
No insurance?
Well, the insurance company paid the first claim, but they won't go another nickel on deliberate destruction.
Well, who are your enemies?
I don't have any enemies.
Well, we better start investigating your friends.
Look, Markham, I don't have time for laughs. If you're going to accept the case, I want you to start this morning. As a carpenter.
As a carpenter?
That's right.
I could feel the blisters beginning to form already. I can't say the assignment came as a pleasant surprise. But my interview with the personnel department was very pleasant.
It looks like you've had a lot of experience, Mr. Markham.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
As a carpenter.
Oh, that's what I mean. You'd be surprised about my experience as a carpenter.
Well, you better do something about those hands.
Never had any complaints before.
Dirty them up?
Miss Jennings, just exactly what did Mr. Cloutman tell you about me?
Everything?
Oh?
Oh, I'm to be trusted, Mr. Markham.
Well, apparently somebody else can't be.
Well, now, it's hardly reasonable that I'd be the one to set fire to a lot of tar paper.
Maybe not, but I think you could set quite a blaze if you tried.
Mr. Kloutman confided in me because he knew you'd want to go through the personnel files. And that wouldn't be possible without my help.
Well, I like that idea. So why don't we go through your personnel files? Tonight. About 8. Constantine's. The activity at the construction site was enormous. And I was almost beginning to feel anxious to get to work. And then, of course, there was Miss Jennings, who not only put me on the payroll, but insisted on driving me out to the job in person.
Well, Miss Jennings, we don't get to see you out here in the job very often.
Brought you your payroll check. Mr. Kloutman found you a new man, so I brought him along, too.
Good.
Roy Markham, this is Barry English, our superintendent.
Glad to have you with us, Markham.
Glad to have a job, Mr. English.
Bo? Yeah. Come here a minute. Bo, Roy Markham. Bo Bowen. Can you use him on your crew?
I sure can, Mr. English.
Put him to work.
Over here. Thanks, Mr. English. Thank you, Miss Jennings. I won't forget your kindness. Or you.
Pretty friendly, isn't he, Ann?
Fresh, too. He's not a carpenter, Barry. He's a detective. And he's bound to find out that the Dreyfus Company is the competitor that's going to profit the most by Kloutman's failure. And then he's apt to be very interested in the fact that you used to work for Dreyfus.
I was an eyewitness to the next piece of sabotage. I didn't have to be a journeyman carpenter to know that the beam had been tampered with. The big question was still, by whom and why?
Let's go.
Kloutman talked to the men in groups. Everyone who'd been anywhere near the accident or who'd handle any of the equipment. He learned just what I thought he would. Nothing. The truss had been sawed and then patched up with wood filler. And it could have been done by anyone on the job, or at the mill, or even somebody on the truck that delivered it.
What do you think, Markham?
I think we're getting nowhere. I haven't heard enough to even think about. Say, there's a place near here where the men congregate after work.
Well, the Cave Bar, just across the street from the studio.
Maybe they can do a little more from the social end. Hiya, Bo. Buy you a beer?
I got a beer.
Ah, yeah, well, take a rain check, huh?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Say, that was quite an accident we almost had today, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who's he?
Oh, I don't know. Some grabber they hired in the job today.
Your opinion, I have mine. I guarantee you that was no accident.
Hi, fellas. Give me a beer, will you?
Now, this next one has got to be something that'll really cost some time. Something that's already got a lot of man-hours against it.
Well, speaking of man-hours, Fletcher, you got my money.
Oh, sure. All right. I'll give you 10 to 5 it wasn't.
You know, I agree with you. Looked like a setup to me.
If I was you, buddy, I wouldn't talk so loud in here. You never know, but one of these guys might be a detective.
Oh?
Yeah. You talk about it, you could get hauled in for questioning.
Thanks, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Either the men knew nothing or there was a conspiracy of silence. And my first honest day's work left me feeling about as fit as a diver with the bends and ready for an honest night's sleep. But I went to keep my date with Ann Jennings. Unfortunately, she wanted to dance.
What's the matter, Mr. Markham? Too much carpentry?
You know, up until a couple of days ago, I could hold my own at anybody's dance floor. But I knew nothing about a hammer and saw. Now I've mastered the hammer and saw, and I can't dance.
Would you like to sit this one out?
I'd love it. It would help me to my chair. I'm physically incapacitated, why don't we talk about some business?
I thought that's why we were here.
Tell me, Miss Jennings, how well do you know Barry English?
Well, I know that Mr. Klotzman couldn't get along without him, because Barry knows more about how to get a job done faster than anyone else in the business.
You sound as if you know him personally.
I handle some of his personnel work and have occasional business contacts with him. Outside of that, I don't know anything more about him than you do, Mr. Markham.
Then you don't think he has anything at all to do with this trouble here?
Of course not. To you?
But unfortunately, Miss Jennings, every man has his price. And I must take into consideration the fact that Barry did work for the Dreyfus Construction Company. And Dreyfus would like nothing better than to see this whole project of Klotzman's go right down the drain.
I know there isn't enough money in the world to get Barry English to do a thing like that to Mr. Klotzman.
Oh, I see.
Mr. Markham, would you mind taking me home? I've been fighting a headache all day, and I'm afraid it's winning.
I'll be glad to. I could use some rest myself.
Hello, Barry. You were right. I just left Markham, and he suspects you. Oh, you found him? All right, I'll meet you at the cave in a half hour.
Bartender, give me a Manhattan, will you? Oh, by the way, who was that man in the corner booth?
Which one?
One with the glasses.
Oh, that's Don Dreyfus. He owns a construction company, I think. He comes in here quite often.
Oh, well, I guess I must be mistaken. I thought I knew him. Thanks very much.
You're welcome, sir. Anytime.
The next day, I was back on the job. My aching back ached a little more than before, but I wasn't any closer to the answers. The softest, lightest, and weakest wood in the world. Substituted for a regular timber. Clever scheme. By now, Klotzman was just about at the end of his rope.
How bad is it?
We can't repair it. We'll have to drop the whole corner and start from the foundation.
Well, that does it. I can't possibly meet my completion date now. Barry, I've grown very fond of you. I felt like a father to you. After this job, I was even going to offer you a partnership. I could be convinced Dreyfus might try to ruin me, but I refuse to believe you had anything to do with it.
Well, you know I didn't, Joe. You know I'd never hurt you. You know I've had nothing to do with Dreyfus since the day I quit him to come with you.
I'm sorry you said that, son. Now I know I can't believe you.
Mr. Klotzman!
You were both seen with Dreyfus last night.
Markham. He must have waited and followed me.
The two people in the whole world I knew I could trust.
I've worked hard for you, Joe. Harder than you had a right to expect. You know the reason? Because you were Joe Klotzman, the greatest guy that ever lived. At least I thought so. So, let's call it a day, okay?
Okay.
There's just one thing before I go. I met Dreyfus to find out if he was behind this thing. I was going to take care of him myself if he was the one. I know him pretty well, Joe. Markham is barking up the wrong stack of lumber. Dreyfus isn't a bit sorry you're going down the drain. But he's not the one who's causing it.
And
Barry and I are going to be married, Mr. Cloutman. So you'll understand why I have to leave with him. I'm sorry.
When Cloutman tipped our hand, my workman's role was over. And I can't say I was sorry, but I was still plagued by unanswered questions. And I thought perhaps the place to find the answers was backstage, from the feather merchants themselves. My friend Bob Horton was making a picture on the lot, so I arranged to meet him at his dressing room.
Oh, there he is, honey. Didn't I tell you he was handsome?
He should be in pictures, too, Bob. Are you really a detective, Mr. Markham?
Well, about this time of the day, I'm not quite sure, but around midnight, I get a cue or
Well,
two.
tell me, Roy, what brings you to California?
Hmm?
I said, what brings you to California?
Oh, work, Bob, work.
Well, I was certainly surprised to get your phone call. I mean, but I'm glad that you gave me some notice, you know.
I'm afraid you misunderstand me, Bob. I'm on the trail of a man, M-A-N.
Oh, honey, will you go back in and wait for me, business? Yeah, I know. You're on your trail of a man. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm looking for a piece of balsa wood.
Balsa wood?
Yes, if I can find the party who got a certain piece, I'd know the man I'm after. Now, I've called several places in town who sell this stuff, and I find that motion picture and TV studios use most of it.
Oh, yeah, we use a lot of it. We use it for breakaways. You know, an actor gets hit on the head with a chair, it's made of balsa, it breaks, and he hardly feels it.
I see. Well, who handles it here at the studio?
Well, it's the head of construction. That's a fellow named Ronnie Evans.
Can you put me next one?
Oh, yeah, he's a friend of mine. Come on in, we'll call him.
Good. Oh, Bob, I'd rather wait outside.
See, Mr. Markham, we buy balsa and rough logs in Milland. Any size and shape we happen to need, we wouldn't have much call for the piece the size you mentioned. But if we did, well, we'd remember it and keep track of it. Every piece is checked out on a requisition.
It'd be pretty hard for someone to steal a 6x6 beam.
Oh, it could happen, I suppose. But nothing like that's happened around here lately. Unless I haven't heard about it. Bill! Maybe my assistant can help us. This is Mr. Markham. He's a detective. Trying to track down a 6x6 by 14-foot piece of balsa. Have you been missing any?
Not since I've been here.
How long has that been?
About 2 months.
Bill used to be with Plymouth Studios. He probably knows more about balsa than I do. If there's anything else you'd like to ask.
No, you've answered all the questions I have. Thanks very much.
I recognized Fletcher instantly as the man I'd seen drinking with Bo Bowen at the cave. Things were beginning to make some sense.
Good night, Bo. Good night, Bo. Let's get going. We don't want to get it home. Let's take Bo.
If you're curious, Bo, take a look in the rearview mirror. But don't turn around. You'll never know who's waiting for you.
I didn't take to you much from the first day you came on the job.
Who is Phil Fletcher?
I never heard of him.
Try again.
That'll come out the same.
Get your hand out of that lunchbox. Hand it back here to me. The lunchbox, now. Yeah. Where were we? Oh, yeah, Phil Fletcher.
I never heard of him.
You know, Boone, you should learn to pick your friends better. I never would have tied up Fletcher with you if I hadn't seen you taking a drink with him in the bar at the cave. Now, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a little walk into the superintendent's shack so I can introduce Mr. Cloutman to the man who's trying to ruin him. And then I imagine we'll take a ride to the police station. But between here and the police station, you're going to tell me who's paying you to do all this damage and where Fletcher fits in.
Never heard of him.
Thanks for the apple. Out. You know him, Cloutman? His name is Bowen.
Sure, I know him. Is he the one, Markham?
No, he's just a handyman. It's a cinch somebody's doing his thinking for him.
Who are you working for, Dreyfus?
I never heard of him.
Why, you... Stay back! Now, this one's gonna talk. Stay back! I'm sorry, Markham. I guess I haven't been much help to you.
But you can start now. It would help if you knew a man named Philip Fletcher.
Is he in on this?
Yes. He's working right here in the studio lot. That's where he got the balsa.
I heard Phil went to work for the studios after...
After what?
Phil, why don't you answer him, Joe? I think you better drop the gun, Mr. Markham. Get it, Bo. Get your hands off of me, Joe.
But, Phil, you're hurt.
So are you. But mine won't last as long as yours. Now you know how I felt. And that's all I want. For you to really know how it feels. For all your years of hard work to turn to nothing right before your eyes. I've been living with that for 15 years, Joe. Now it's your turn.
Phil, you're wrong about me. It was your own stubbornness that broke your business. You were still doing everything by hand long after there was machinery to speed up construction. How can you blame me because I progressed and you didn't?
I was twice the builder you were. You know that.
I never denied that. That's why I asked you to merge so many times instead of compete with me.
You won't have to compete anymore. You've lost more time than you can ever make up. I saw to that.
He must have really hated you.
So much he even changed his name. He was my brother.
The roar of the big equipment had fallen silent, and the silence was almost more deafening than the roar had been.
Markham, but you'd gone back to Washington.
Little matter of money.
I paid your fee in advance.
I'm speaking of my work as a carpenter.
Oh. Well, I guess you are entitled to something for that. Well, a few dollars can't make much difference to me now, one way or the other. Can't meet my completion date.
You could have had 4 more weeks.
You learned a lot about construction in less than 2 days as a carpenter, didn't you?
Not my opinion, it's Barry's.
Barry?
I talked to him on the phone this morning. He said 4 weeks would be enough to clean up the whole job. Mr. Davis thought it was reasonable, too.
Davis, head of Tower Studios? When'd you see him?
This morning at the executive meeting he called. When they heard all the facts about what had happened to you and why, they decided to extend your contract 4 more weeks.
You're not joking again.
Never joke about money. Here, gotta catch a plane.
Well, now, wait a minute, Mark.
Barry will explain everything to you. He's at the Surf in Las Vegas.
What's he doing there?
On his honeymoon with Ann.
Honeymoon? Hey, what about this?
Oh, buy him a wedding present with it. Get him something nice. So that was one story of Hollywood. A story without the glitter of stars, but of a builder who'd won another chance.